Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
You're listening to the sweet, sensual, and serendipitous sounds of Nerdery and Murdery.
Zig, damn it. All right, welcome to episode 55 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 55! I'm Zig with your Nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week's episode. Hope you're still enjoying the episodes out there since we've done 55 of these.
55 of these bad. Well, they're listening, so I think so.
Hopefully everybody's enjoying it. So, Zig, I will let you take over the nerdery side of the house.
Well, awesome. This is another indie song list.
All right. I have my notes ready to go.
Really? You listened to the whole list?
I did.
Really?
I
did.
did.
On that? Okay, so I wanted to do mostly power pop stuff. So power pop is a type of pop, or it's a form of pop rock based on early music of bands such as The Who, The Beatles, The Beach Boys, and The Byrds. It originated in the 1960s and developed mainly among American musicians who came of age during the British invasion. So a lot of people also say like garage rock is power pop. And it typically incorporates melodic hooks, vocal harmonies, and energetic performances. So a lot of feedback. The Kinks were a big proponent of power pop too. And fairly happy sounding music, underpinned by a sense of yearning, longing, or despair. So most of the stuff in this list is power pop, and a particular perceived subset of power pop, what they called in the late 80s, early 90s, the blonde pop scene. I went ahead and incorporated 3 examples of this. Now, the artists don't like the blonde pop moniker because basically it was power pop with blonde women as singers. And I think it's rather unfortunate because they're all very, very talented musicians and singers, and they didn't want to be lumped in as, being a sort of a Barbie doll type character. But some of the writers of the music press at the time coined this blonde pop scene. I don't see anything wrong. I don't agree that they should have all been lumped into the same category because there's one band that was lumped in with them that is not a power pop band at all. But the three examples I put in here were music I was listening to and I thought was great. And then I heard this blonde pop moniker. As a matter of fact, it pissed off one of the singers so much that she changed her hair to red. So they would quit calling her blonde pop. That was Tracy from the Primitives, which is also in this list. But yeah, really, really talented, great musicians. So I kind of wanted to focus on that one. So the first one is by Time Walks Away by the Blazes. Now, the Blazes are an American alternative rock band from New Jersey. They formed in 1979 while still in high school in Union County, New Jersey. They became a successful cover band, playing a set that included songs by Elvis Costello, the Ramones, Devo, The Clash, Bruce Springsteen, and Southside Johnny. Yeah, it kind of sound like a cover band. So I wanted to record this because this is actually a hit on the indie charts.
You didn't record this?
No, I didn't record this.
You said I wanted to record this.
Well, I wanted to
put this in the list.
Yes, I wanted to put this in the list. We are recording it, but yeah, I wanted to put this in the list because I think the Blazes, the biggest problem is they have an accent mark in their name because they look like the Blazes. So they put an accent mark. It made them hard for people to find them during the internet age because if you type in Blazes, you will get a completely different band. So I think they were probably killed by that. Rob Wagner and Billy Donahue added bassist Paul Verdon to the band for their original music project, which was called the Hernia Boys. And they added George Decker on drums to record their first single in 1982, All Night Long and Me and You, which was broadcast on MTV's Basement Tapes, which they stopped doing by the mid-'80s. They ended up becoming 120 minutes, but the Basement Tapes was kind of an earlier version of that. You Don't Know Me in 1985 was tragically preceded by the accidental death of bassist Paul Verdon. Despite the loss of their close friend and bandmate, Wagner and Donahue continued the band. The Blazes had become a fixture in the New Brunswick music scene and were staples of the Court Tavern at WRSU. The band added bassist Joe DeLorenzo and drummer Rob Angelo and became a favorite of the Jersey Shore alternative rock scene. They regularly played the Green Parrot and received airplay and support of radio station WHTG. The album The Blazes was released on Permanent Rave Records in 1989 and was successful on the college and alternative radio. The video for the single Time Walks Away aired for a period on MTV's 120 Minutes. I love this song. You know who turned me on to this song? Don. Because he is, again, from the Jersey Shore. So he was familiar with these guys. I think he's even seen them live. He said they were great. What did you think about Time Walks Away by the Blazes?
I really like the music. I do like this song, but it was funny as you were giving your synopsis of the song. My comment was the lead singer is trying to be Elvis Costello too much. If I didn't see the video, I would have thought this was Elvis Costello.
Yeah, it does have an Elvis Costello sound.
Yeah.
And maybe a little Southside Johnny, too.
Yeah, but I really like this one. This is a good song.
I think it's a shame that they were so hard to find, on internet searches. Because again, if you don't put the accent mark in, they won't come up.
I'd have listened to more about this group.
Yeah, and a lot of it has that power pop kind of. I want to say Bruce Springsteen, but honestly, that sound is actually from Southside Johnny. Bruce Springsteen got that sound from Southside Johnny, but it's that Jersey Shore power pop kind of sound. It's beautiful and I love it. And if you like Springsteen, you will like some of this stuff. So yeah, that's definitely one that people want to give a listen to. And the homemade video that they made, which was, beautiful. And let's not discount the mullet that guy had in that video. It was glorious. The next song is called Christmas TV by the band The Slow Club. They were an English duo formed in Sheffield in 2006. The band consists of multi-instrumentalist Charles Watson and Rebecca Lucy Taylor, with Watson contributing piano, Taylor contributing drums, and both performing guitars and vocals. The band split in 2017 following extensive tours to support their last album, with both members moving on to solo projects. The band released 2 7-inch singles in 2007, Because We're Dead and Me and You, on Moshi Moshi Records. And on September 1st, 2008, their first extended play, Let's Fall Back in Love, was released, as well as a collection of Christmas singles, and Christmas TV was released in 2008. Now, this is really important. This song got a lot of play a couple of years later because in the series Chuck, Ellie's wedding scene where she's walking on the beach with Chuck and her dad, played by Scott Bakula, this is the song they're playing.
Huh.
So come on home, come on home. I love this song. I think this is the sweetest song I think I've ever heard. What do you think about this?
My first comment on this, oh God, no. This song didn't know what it was. Slow song, fast song. I couldn't wait for this song to be over.
Really?
No.
Not a fan of Slow Club.
No, no. And I'm surprised it was on Chuck because I generally liked most of the music on Chuck. So I'm really surprised to hear that. I'll have to go back and watch that episode now.
It's in the notes. In there. It is in the notes. I put a link to that scene.
Interesting. Yeah, because I just did not like this song. I so wanted it to be over.
Sorry, buddy.
And I give them all a whirl. I listened to the whole thing and go through it. And this one, I was just like, please end.
Please stop.
Please end.
Yeah,
please
it's the only. It's not power pop. Well, I mean, it kind of is toward the end, but yeah, it's not really power pop. Most everything else in here is power poppy.
Okay.
The next song on the list is by the Judies. It's Her Wave. The Judies were a Pearland, Texas-based punk and new wave band that flourished in the late 70s through the early 1980s. Now, an interesting thing about the Judies were big in Pearland, which is down by Houston, between Houston and Galveston. And the Judies were big here. The Judies weren't big any place else in the world. They were huge in DFW. They were huge in Austin, Houston, but they really didn't get a big splash outside of Texas. I think some of the indie guys on both the coasts kind of picked them up, but no, they were mostly a Texas band. Their song Guyana Punch recounts the infamous Jonestown Massacre. Several of the songs were topical. Dogs refers to the Son of Sam murderers. Radiation Squirm refers to 3 Mile Island accident. How's Gary refers to the execution of convicted killer Gary Gilmore. And Vacation in Tehran refers to the Iranian hostage crisis. On December 1st, 2007, the Judies announced on the opening of their own label and website, Wasted Talent Records. And on this website, the albums Moo and Washarama were released on CD and vinyl, having been previously available only on vinyl and cassette tapes. Washarama is where Her Wave is on. And they started in high school in 1980. David Bean, Dane Sesnak, and Jeff Walton. And then Sam Roush. Sam Roush died in 1980, so in a car accident. So they got Jeff Walton, and as I said, they were huge in this area. They were huge in Houston, and the Judies disbanded in 1983. But their music still seems to be, and they got it still seems to be creeping around here in Houston, and I think there's Now there's a big fan base in LA or San Diego, that area. But basically, they all went out and got regular jobs. And they haven't done anything with music since then until just a few years ago. As I said, well, I say a few years ago, it's 2007. Wow. Man, time really flies. But yeah, the Judies they were a big band. I thought they were big. They're not. What did you think about Her Wave?
I thought this was a rejected song from Rocky Horror.
Really?
Yeah, because it really sounded like that's what they were going for, and much of this was something out of Rocky Horror. I gave a hard pass to this one.
Really? Yeah. Didn't like that one. Let me try throwing a couple more of their songs at you. You might like Milk on the Moo album. My next song in the list is Come Anytime by the Hoodoo Gurus. Again, I thought this song was a hit. No, it was a hit on the indie charts. And not just here, it was a hit on the indie charts everywhere because they're an Australian band. They formed in Sydney in 1981, and their mainstay, Dave Faulkner, and he was later joined by Richard Grossman and Mark Kingsmill and Brad Shepard. Their popularity peaked in the mid to late 80s with the album Mars Needs Guitars, Blow Your Cool, and Magnum Come Louder. They had a string of power pop rock hits, including Leilani, Tojo, My Girl, I Want You Back, Bittersweet, Like Wow, Wipeout, What's My Scene, and Come Anytime, which was released in 1989. It reached number one on the Australian charts. It reached number one. Here it was number 3 on the modern rock charts. And the Hoodoo Gurus released Australia's biggest single, was their 1987 top single, was What's My Scene, because it actually stayed on longer than Come Anytime. But it was parodied by the National Rugby League 2000s theme, That's My Team. The Hoodoo Gurus were inducted into the Australia's 2007 ARIA Hall of Fame. The band's induction announcement stated that the Gurus were one of the most inventive, lyrically smart, and exciting bands from Australia. And again, they're very 1960s based pop rock stuff. Magnum Come Louder is the 4th studio album. It was produced by the group and released in Australia in May of 1989. And again, you know, I think the album peaked at number 13. Faulkner later said, "We produced the record ourselves on our own morale. If for nothing else, we had been through a very rough period with 6 months of inactivity from a lawsuit to get free of their old record contract. Rather than even telling the record company they were recording, they let them hear it after it was finished. And luckily they liked it. Otherwise, they'd have been in deep trouble." The album was re-released by EMI on 7th of February 2005 with 3 bonus tracks: Spaghetti Western, Lover for a Friend, and Cajun Country with a fold out. So what did you think about Come Anytime by the Hoodoo Gurus? Because I thought this was on the regular radio. It wasn't.
My first thought was, are they trying out to be an REM cover band? It's hard not to like this song when I think of REM the whole time.
Yeah.
I like the song overall, but they really sounded like a cover band. It reminded me a lot of REM.
Like early REM?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear that.
But I like the song.
Yeah. And it's one of those, and it's catchy too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I really like this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Definitely one I would recommend. Did it go into your playlist?
Yeah, this one could. It didn't immediately, but this is one I would listen to again.
Okay. Cool. So again, the power pop had that subsection called the blonde pop. This is one of those bands. They were called the Darling Buds. They were an alternative rock band from Newport, South Wales. The band formed in 1986 and were named after H.E. Bates' novel, The Darling Buds of May. In the title, which is taken from the third line of Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. And on the album, it was released on the album Crawdaddy. The name of the song is Crystal Clear. It was released on Epic Records in 1990, along with the single Tiny Machines. The album's sound was more accomplished than the band's debut album, Pop Said. The arrangements were lush, with tracks like Tiny Machine clocking in just under 6 minutes. Song lengths were relatively epic compared to the 2-minute average of Pop Said. But Crystal Clear is my favorite Darling Bud song. It's very 1960s sound. You definitely get that power pop sound. What'd you think about the Darling Buds?
Exactly what I had in my first comment was nice 60s style in a 90s looking band.
Yeah.
The lead singer had the Jennifer Aniston hair.
Yes.
The drummer had the Paul Reiser vest from the
Yes.
90s and the T-shirt.
Yes.
I like this song a lot, actually. I like this one.
Yeah. Jennifer Aniston may have ripped her look off of.
Maybe because, I mean, it was the Jennifer Aniston hair.
Yeah.
But no, this was, I agree, very nice 60s style from a 90s band. So I dug this song a whole lot.
Yeah, this is really good. You should hear some more of their stuff if you like that one. Pop said maybe a little punkier, but if you look at the Crawdaddy, I think you'll like a lot of the stuff on there because a lot of it sounds like this.
I'd give them more listens.
Okay, my next song is not a power pop song in my list. You know how I talk about Concrete Blonde was one of that cowpunk band after a certain point, after they heard Social Distortion? This was made before that. Okay. This is when they were still kind of a punk band. This is by the Concrete Blonde. It was an American alternative rock band from Hollywood, California. And they were initially active from 1982 to 1995. And reunited twice, first for 2001 to 2004, and again in 2010 to 2012. They're best known for their album Bloodletting and its top 20 single, Joey, and Johnette Napolitano's distinct vocal styles. Singer-songwriter and bassist Johnette Napolitano formed the band with guitarist James Mankey in Los Angeles in 1982. James Mankey used to play with Sparks, the kind of, I don't know, progressive rock band. But he got tired of the progressive rock stuff and just wanted to rock out. And he kind of wanted to do a punk thing, so he hooked up with Johnette Napolitano. Their first recording was a song, Heart Attack, released under the band name The Dreamers on a compilation album, the DIY album. Then they got drummer Michael Murphy and became Dream 6, releasing an eponymous EP on the independent label Happy Hermit in 1983, released in France by Madrigal. And then they signed with IRS Records in 1986. Their label mate Michael Stipe suggested they change their name from Dream 6 to Concrete Blonde. So, because it described the contrast between their hard rock music and their introspective lyrics. They were then joined by drummer Harry Rushkoff on their eponymous debut album. The first release was Concrete Blonde, 1986, which is what this album is, or this song is off of, which included this song, Still in Hollywood. And then they added a full-time bassist, Alan Block, for the next album, Free, which they recorded God is a Bullet. But I want to talk about this album in particular, because this song also appears in a science fiction movie, The Hidden, also with Kyle MacLachlan. When they're playing really rocked out music, this is the song they're playing. They actually recorded two versions of this. This one and a more psychedelic punk rock version called It'll Chew You Up and Spit You Out. My favorite part of this song is the bass line, but it is Still in Hollywood by Concrete Blonde, and it rocks. What do you think about this one?
I thought the song was good, but it didn't sound like theirs. It sounded like, to me, it was Concrete Blonde as Joan Jett.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's what they were going for originally.
Okay.
It wasn't until their next album, Free, where they kind of got that country,
their own voice.
Yeah.
Because that was it. With what I am familiar with Concrete Blonde, this just wasn't them, and I wouldn't have picked as them. Again, I thought this was a Joan Jett song.
Yes, no, it was not a Joan Jett song. But if you can, they also did a love song on this album called "Song to Kim." That's where they first get the sound of Concrete Blonde. You could tell they were just trying to play with that sound a little bit, and then they ran around with Social Distortion for about a year around the LA scene, and then they released Free right after that with God is a Bullet. The next one is another blonde pop band called the Heartthrobs. They were an indie rock band from Reading, England, and they released 3 albums on the One Little Indian label before splitting up in 1993. The Heartthrob single, this song, Dreamtime, reached a peak position of number 2 on the Billboard Modern Rock Track charts in 1990. So they were I want to say they were on the charts for a good 2-3 months. And again, they went all the way up to number 2 on the alternative, what we now call the alternative charts. The Heartthrobs formed in 1986 initially by Rose Carlotti and Stephen Ward, both college students who recruited Rose's sister, Rachel DeFreitas, and Mark Side. Rose and Rachel are sisters to the late Echo and the Bunnymen drummer, Peter DeFreitas. So Echo and the Bunnymen kind of helped them get this single made, this first album made. But I would say there's a quality to this song. Especially the two ladies' vocals on this that are just amazing. Plus the guitar, the droning guitar on this is just beautiful. Plus a nice bass line. What did you think about Dreamtime?
I thought this was a really groovy song. I loved the versatility of the lead singer's voice.
Yeah, it was actually 2 of them.
And I really,
yeah.
I don't know.
But they're sisters.
I love this whole song from start to finish.
Yeah.
This is one would absolutely go on my playlist. This was a cool song.
Yeah, it's one of those things that this should have been on regular radio. There's no reason why it was on an independent record label,
right.
But there's no reason why this shouldn't have been on the top 40 because this was a great song.
Yeah.
Hooky, beautiful, good. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too short.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. Great song.
The next one is Native Son by the Judy Bats. The Judy Bats were an American alternative rock band from Knoxville, Tennessee, primarily active in the late 80s to the early 90s. The band released 3 successful singles that charted on the Billboard Modern Rock Track charts, Native Son, Saturday, and Being Simple, the latter of which peaked at number 7. Now, even though Being Simple was a bigger hit, I wanted to include Native Son instead because I like it better for no other reason. Plus, they didn't have Peggy Hambright wasn't singing with them when they did the other one, and I like Peggy Hambright, the backup singer. Well, she was also keyboardist and tambourine player. I included the video because the video you could tell they made it themselves, and they got their best outfits for the video. Because at one point they're all wearing suits, and then they're all wearing ugly paisley shirts from the late 80s, and then one guy turns into a horse. It's just, you could tell they were college kids playing with their AV equipment. But they were first formed in 1987 with vocalist Jeff Highskull, who'd been performing with guitarist Ed Winters in Knoxville as an acoustic duo. They met bassist Tim Stutz at a local bar called Hawkeye's Corner. Now, Tim Stutz kind of looks like Sluggo from the Nancy cartoons. They also recruited guitarist Johnny Surkey and drummer Terry Casper, and who'd known each other since high school and been playing music together as a trio. Peggy Hambright was Stutz and Surkey's roommate at the time and joined the band, contributing to keyboards, violins, and vocals. The Judy Bats played locally to large audiences before signing to Sire Records, Seymour Stein's label. The band took their name from a song written by a friend of theirs, which contained the line, "Punch me with a Judy bat," a punning allusion to Punch and Judy shows. The official form of the band's name was never entirely clear, although the band was credited as the Judy Bats as one word on the cover of their first album, Native Son. All their subsequent albums listed the band's name as just Judy Bats. So, and also plural or 2 words or 1 word, they spelled it differently all the time. But you never were really sure if it was Judy Bats or the Judy Bats. What did you think about Native Son?
You ready?
Uh-huh.
Meh.
Really?
Meh.
That's your notes? Meh.
Oh, hold on. Here, I have another note. Meh. I didn't like this one. I did not at all. Not at all.
Not a fan.
Nope.
Not a fan.
It's your list. Who cares what I think?
Natives. This one plays in my head a lot. It's on my internal playlist. They did, their first major level was they recorded a cover of the 13th Floor Elevators song, She Lives in a Time of Her Own. which was on Rocky Erickson's tribute album. Although, honestly, I did not like it nearly as much. But the band did open for John Wesley Hardin during the 1990-1991 series. And they were joined by Peter Buck on guitar at the Georgia Theater in Athens, Georgia. But yeah, that's basically it for the Judy Bats, other than I think you should get out there and listen to it. But apparently Jeffrey disagrees. Did you just not like it?
I didn't like the song at all. And the funny thing is, I was confusing myself with Fortunate Son. And I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be a really groovy cover. And then it was very much a disappointment.
Shine, where have you gone?
A lot of disappointment for me.
So sorry.
So, don't be sorry.
The next one, the next one is Blowing at the High Dough by the Tragically Hip. If our listeners are listening in Canada, they're screaming at the radio right now going, why is this considered independent? These were the biggest band in Canada for years. They're considered a national treasure up there. But down here, not so much. The Tragically Hip is oftenly referred to simply as The Hip, and they were a Canadian rock band formed in Kingston, Ontario in 1984, consisting of vocalist Gord Downey, guitarist Paul Langolis, guitarist Rob Baker, known as Bobby Baker until 1994, bassist Gord Sinclair, and drummer Johnny Fay. They released 13 studio albums, 1 live album, 1 EP, and over 50 singles over a 33-year career. 9 of their albums have reached number 1 on the Canadian charts. That's how big they are. They've received numerous Canadian Music Awards, including 16 Juno Awards between 1996 and 2016. The Tragically Hip were the best-selling Canadian band in Canada and the 4th best-selling Canadian artist overall in Canada, full stop. By the mid-'80s, they performed in small music venues across Ontario until being seen by then MCA Vice President Bruce Dickinson at the Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto. They were signed to a long-term record deal with MCA and recorded the EP The Tragically Hip.
Bruce Dickinson? More cowbell? That Bruce Dickinson?
Yes. That Bruce Dickinson. The album produced 2 singles, Small Town Bridge Down and Highway Girl, and they followed up with 1989's Up to Here. The album produced 4 singles, including Blow at the High Dough. New Orleans is Sinking, Boots on Hearts, and 38 Years Old. All 4 of these songs found extensive rotation on modern rock radio play lists in Canada. They played on the modern rock stations down here. The opening theme song of the CBC television series Made in Canada, but here it was called The Industry. So the opening is actually on a TV show they used to play on KERA all the time. Occasionally they'll pop it back up. It's a television comedy, which aired on CBC television from 1998 to 2003. Rick Mercer starred as Richard Strong, an ambitious and amoral television producer working for the company, which is what this song is about. It's about a movie company that comes to their town to make a movie, and everybody gives up all of their morals and everything else to blow at that high dough, to make that money. That's what the song's about. The song's about selling out, and this song, it starts out real slow, but it rocks your face off. I could see why it was a hit. So what do you think about Blowing at the High Dough?
Yeah, I agree with you. It started off really slow. I actually said that I preferred the song after the 40-second mark.
Yeah.
Get past that, and it was really a pretty decent song. Not great, but some really, really, really good guitars in this one. So, for me, decent, but not great.
No, this wouldn't go in your playlist.
Nah.
It's not a bad song.
Nah, not a bad song. I'd listen to it again, but...
Not so much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as I said, this song is in Canada. This is like I don't know. They're like Bon Jovi in Canada.
Okay.
So this is living on a prayer to them. So, the next song in my list is "Secrets" by the Primitives. The Primitives are an English indie pop band from Coventry, best known for their 1988 international hit single "Crash." They formed in 1984 and disbanded in 1992, but reformed in 2009. The band's two constant members throughout the recording career have been vocalist Tracy Tracy and guitarist Paul Court. Drummer Tig Williams has been a consistent member since '87. Often described as an indie pop or indie rock band, the Primitives' music style can be seen as a straddling power pop, new wave, and post-punk. They're also lumped into that blonde pop genre. The Primitives were formed in the summer of 1984 by P.J. Court, Steve Dulligan, Pete Tweedy, Kieran McDermott, and McDermott was replaced by Tracy Tracy, born Tracy Lewis Cattell, and Tig Williams replaced Pete Tweedy on drums in October of '87. McDermott left the band claiming that he could not work with a new manager, so he reformed Nocturnal Babies, which didn't go anywhere. And that's when they got Tracy Tracy. The band were part of the indie music scene of the mid-'80s, alongside bands like Jesus and Mary Chain, Primal Scream. Primal Scream is the band that Bobby Gillespie from Jesus and Mary Chain, the drummer that played the Trash Can Lid, started, and has been going on ever since. My Bloody Valentine, the Soup Dragons, and the Wedding Presents. They were major rivals with blonde pop scenes, were Transvision Vamp and the Darling Buds, which we discussed. I did not include Transvision Vamp in this group because they're not a power pop band. They're more of a hard rock band. I don't think that they fit into the blonde pop genre, other than their singer was a blonde lady. So this is why I kind of disagree with that lumping. The band's early singles were released on their own Lazy Records imprint in late '87. They signed their label over the RCA, who released the band's material until their split. So Pure, the album that Secrets is on, is the second studio album by this band, the Primitives. It was released in '89 as a follow-up to their debut, Lovely. They changed their lineup a little bit, but the first U.S. single from Pure was Sick of It, which is a really good tune as well, which I almost included instead of this one. But I kind of like Secrets. It's hooky to me. I really, really like this song. I like it better than Crash. Crash is one of my favorite songs of all time. What did you think of this one? We got secrets.
Excuse me. Hold on.
No
Wait.
one cashes us. Secrets.
Meh.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't care for the Primitives?
I'd like to hear some different songs from them.
Okay.
I could see that. I could see something in this, but I'd like to get a different sampling of their music. This particular one, nah.
Not so much?
No, didn't like this one.
Okay. Maybe I'll shoot you over a copy of Crash. Or
Yeah. Send me over some different ones because I think this band had enough here that if I could have a different sampling, I think I might have a different opinion.
Yeah, the band's okay. You just didn't care for the song.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So not going in your playlist.
No, that one will not go in my
hard pass.
playlist. Yeah.
Right on. Well, that is about it for my list for indie songs today.
Cool.
Other than the list is out there, get out, listen to them. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, listen to them on YouTube. The link is
Nerdery and Murdery EP 55.
Okay.
So each one of these I'm now going to title EP, whatever the episode is.
Okay. I'm still waiting for you to find me another band like Still Corners.
Okay.
Because they're one of my favorites now, and I love Still Corners. So I'm anxiously waiting for something like that.
Some more Still Corners.
Oh, absolutely.
You might want to check out more stuff by the Darling Buds and the Heartthrobs if you like Still Corners, especially the Heartthrobs. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to include them. Was like, oh, he might like this because they have kind of that. It's a little more rocky, but it's that same sort of kind of droning kind of. They're the ones that did Dreamtime.
Okay. We'll give those a shot. So hope everybody out there goes and listens to those as well. We'd love to hear your opinions on those. And with that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
And we don't have a murder today.
Hey, everybody lives. True crime.
Well, as far as we're aware, I got my information off TUC magazine, Crime Junkie podcast, and LinkedIn. And this is Operation Fireball. So This is an online, possibly conspiracy. Kind of listen for yourself and decide for yourself.
Okay.
And as I talk about in here, I heard this on Crime Junkie for the first time. It's been on other shows, and I think it's important to get this information out here. There's a lot of stuff in here. And you'll see as we go along. So, chime in at any point on here. So where we'll start off, getting stood up on a date is really a sucky experience by anybody. I mean, I think anybody can agree with that. But two true crime podcasters think it could be a dangerous one after somewhat accidentally uncovering a terrifying online dating scheme that spans multiple dating platforms in cities around the United States. The hosts of Crime Junkie have left listeners wondering whether or not there's an organized predatory scheme that's gone undetected for over a decade. Again, we're not the first podcast to cover this, but I think it's important that we keep this going because this is either an organized scheme or copycats, but this needs to keep getting spread and maybe will help other people keep safe in a very similar situation. The whole story that I heard on Crime Junkie started back in December of 2020 when the podcast Something Was Wrong invited a guest named Jez on the show to tell a scary online dating story. Upon hearing the story, Crime Junkie hosts Ashley Flowers and Britt Praywat decided to share it on their own show. After publishing the episode, hundreds of listeners wrote in to share their own identical experiences spanning from 2009 to 2019 and occurring in cities across the country, and they call this scheme Operation Fireball. Funny thing is, I heard this first time while I was driving home from out of town. It was a very dark and stormy night, so it was very, very ambient that I'm listening to this story.
This is creepy.
So here's what happened. Jez, who had just moved to Denver in 2012, was looking to meet people in the area, and she made plans to meet up with someone named Jordan, who she met on Plenty of Fish at the Old Chicago for drinks. She arrived at the restaurant, and her date informed her by text he would be late and asked her to order 2 shots of Fireball and wait for him. As she kind of sat there...
This is why it's called Fireball.
Operation Fireball.
Okay.
As she sat there, she kept getting texts from Jordan. He kept saying, hey, I'm caught in traffic. I'm really sorry. I'll be there soon. At one point, he even told her, I've just been pulled over, so I'm going to be even later. He kind of kept excusing himself why he was late. So as she was sitting there, a seat over from her, there was a man who was sitting at the bar. They engaged her in conversation. Jez at this point accepted she had been stood up, but her new companion asked her to stay and offered to buy her dinner or drink. So they're just chatting it up. They're talking. They're having a good time. Nothing seems to be wrong, and they chatted, and she excused herself to go to the restroom. While in the restroom, a waitress approached her and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." The waitress looked at her and said, "This is going to sound crazy, but whatever reason you are here, he got you here. He is the reason you're sitting at this bar."
The guy she was talking to.
To at the bar. She then informed her that the same man was seen frequently engaging women who have been stood up and purchased 2 shots of Fireball at the bar. He always sits 1 seat away. He always leaves with them, and it's never the same woman twice. She also says the women who leave with him are always more drunk than they should be off the amount of alcohol they were served. So, in other words, probably slipping something into their drinks. Jez, she was scared at this point, especially realizing she had left her purse back at the bar, and she wasn't concerned about the money as much as she was that her ID was in her purse, her phone was there.
She just moved into town.
Right.
Yeah.
So she did return back to her seat, and she decided she would just order a full meal and wait the guy out so that he would leave. Mm-hmm. She did realize as she was sitting there, though, that she never noticed the guy texting, so she was not sure if the guy was texting her down on his side or what, because if he's the guy that got her here from Plenty of Fish, and she's getting these texts from Jordan saying
it can't be him
late,
doing it because she can, yeah.
Well, she said she couldn't tell, that maybe he was under the bar texting, so she said about that she wasn't sure about that. Eventually, he did press her to leave with him. He was like, "Hey, there's a place I know down the road, has some great margaritas. Let's go there. We can go have some fun down there." And she refused to leave with him, but he then became really aggressive until finally he gave up and he left without her. Jez says she sat at the restaurant for 4 more hours before deciding to leave because she was freaked out, figuring this guy might be waiting for her at her car.
Yeah.
And she actually waited until the bartender could walk her to the car.
Right on.
The next day, Jez attempted to call her date who had stood her up, only to find that the phone number had been disconnected.
Huh.
So this leads someone to believe that either he was texting her stealthy from a phone under the bar, or there was somebody else involved.
There's 2 guys.
2 guys, right. So, it's a weird story and no crime was committed. Jez did call the police the next day and they agreed that no crime was committed, but there was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
This was just a guy in a bar who was trying to get her to have drinks and then left, and there was, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
After publishing the podcast episode, Flowers and Praywat did receive, as I said before, hundreds of messages from listeners telling identical stories. It happened to a woman named Alex in 2019 in Detroit with someone she met on Hinge. It happened in San Diego to a woman named Amanda with someone from Plenty of Fish, again, same app. Mary in Nashville had the same experience with a Tinder date, and Kate in Winter Park, Florida with someone she met on Facebook Messenger. All of these stories involved the date asking them to order 2 shots of Fireball and a man at the bar trying to get them to come home with them. The scariest part is all of these women had been warned off by bar staff or made the decision not to leave with the man, so none of these stories shed light on what happened after the man got his targets home alone.
Oh.
So after the influx of messages...
Oh, is it the same man?
I don't know that it's the same man, and this is where they talk about online that maybe this is a conspiracy, an underground thing of people trying the exact same thing, of people telling people, hey, try this, you can get a woman from a bar easily this way. I don't think it's the same man because it spans over a decade and all over the country.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was in different places.
I tend to believe it's an online thing. It's an online way of that people have discovered to prey on women. After the influx of messages, Flowers and Praywat did make a follow-up episode in February of 2021 to re-examine the case in more detail. They talked to Ann Dar, who's a victim specialist with the FBI's Denver field office. And Dar said, quote, "A lot of times a potential trafficker or subject in a case, they are going to do anything they can to exploit any vulnerability. When they can contact you online, they are looking at what vulnerabilities they can exploit." After the release of the follow-up episode, there were no more updates given on the case, either by Crime Junkie or any news outlet or investigative body. The mystery of what exactly the goal of Operation Fireball could be has left Redditors and armchair detectives at a loss, and the reopening of bars and nightlife after a period of isolation only means that vulnerability is at an all-time high.
Right on.
Theories range from deep web pickup artists, though no such advice has been found, a way to lure women for sexual assault, and even possibly a large-scale human trafficking tactic. Whether Operation Fireball is a predatory pickup artist tactic or something more sinister, it seemed to exist in most major cities on most dating sites. While the motives of these men are unknown, it's still a bone-chilling story of those currently in the online dating scene. In the case of the old Chicago and Denver, the man was only seen one more time. The bartender, Johnny, who had been present the night of Jez's ordeal and had sounded the alarm bells to staff, saw him walk through the door and they made eye contact. The man immediately fled and was never seen there again. As for Jez, she's recently started her own podcast, Let's Get Back to Questionable, Inappropriate Advice and More, where she shares advice on sex and dating on the internet era. I have some statistics here about online dating as well. A statistic from 2016 stated that sexual assaults linked to online dating platforms have grown 6-fold. As of January 2020, 10% of sex offenders use online dating to meet people. And as of February 2020, 20% of new account registration on these sites are fraudulent. Yep.
Damn it.
Yep.
I mean, it's hard enough to get by in this world and meet people that you like. It seems like every time we get something cool, some predator comes along and screws it up.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I did also, in the light of this, I've got some advice about online dating to give out to everybody. the first and easiest thing you can do is go to Google. A simple search on a person's name in Google will usually give you some sort of validation whether this individual actually exists, and you actually do an image search. Don't give out your personal phone number, and definitely not any other information about where you can be found. There are many options to help with this. Google Voice, Skype, etc. It's convenient for some, but it's also is it so laborious that you would jeopardize your own safety? Do, however, have a real conversation with the person. Start with a phone call using the above methods, and then maybe try a Zoom call or something where you can put your eyes on.
So you can see them, see if they're a real person.
If you feel, if something feels off or they continue to deny this request, it should be a hell no for you. Don't ever let them pick you up. Don't ever take a drink that you haven't seen poured. Tell someone you trust where you're going, and have a wingman or wingwoman or whatever. Make sure there's someone in close proximity to you so you can get the heck out of Dodge if necessary. Phone location apps sometimes make people feel all twitchy, but it's a good idea to share your location with one or two people in your life who you trust implicitly.
Right on.
For goodness sake, do not meet them at their residence or anywhere that is not public. While we're at it, do not meet them at a central location and then go get in a car and go somewhere else. This happens a lot. Just don't do it. Drive a little further, Uber. Just don't get in someone else's car that you don't know. Sometimes good people make bad decisions in the moment. There are probably a million more of these, I'm sure. Piece of advice. The point is 360 awareness does not start and stop when we're walking to our car in the mall parking lot. It's noticing the person you've gone to church with for 30 years, holding that held onto your hand for just a few seconds longer when you give a handshake as you're leaving Sunday service. It's spotting the same car in your rearview mirror for the last 20 miles. It's closing your blinds and drapes at night, even though you live in a safe neighborhood. And it's all the things that we shouldn't have to do, but we better.
Yeah, it's a damn shame people can't just live their lives and enjoy it without having to worry about predators.
Well, it's definitely about protecting yourself and being proactive when you're engaging with people online.
Yeah.
Technology has brought us together in a lot of ways, and it's a good thing. But don't forget there's bad people out there just waiting for an opportunity to take advantage.
Yep.
You want to be persistent when it comes to your security. If there's anything you should overthink, it's your safety. Have fun, meet people, fall in love, network, but do it safely.
Yeah.
Crime Junkie has an anthem, and I couldn't agree with them more, and that's BWBRSA, and that stands for Be Weird, Be Rude, Stay Alive. It's not our job to make people feel validated.
Yep.
It's our job to protect ourselves and each other, so it's okay to be rude if that means you get to the next day.
That's right.
So I said at the beginning, I don't know if this is truly something organized or not. I personally think with all the similar situations out there, this is something that's spread through the dark web.
I keep coming back to Fireball, specifically Fireball.
In all the accounts so far, yeah. There are just too many cities where this has happened for it to be the same person.
Yeah.
But what if it is? Do we have a serial offender out there, and how many people have fallen prey to this and not reported it?
Yeah. Or we haven't found them yet.
Right. Or, have we had sexual assaults that have gone unreported, or worse, people who have disappeared and this has happened to, and yet no one's put it all together?
Yeah.
Or is this simply the work of pickup artists who have shared their strategies online? Is this the last thing? Is this simply an urban legend, as some sites, forums exclaim? I really don't believe it is, because we've got too many people claiming for these series of events.
Yeah. And too much corroboration.
Yeah. But as always, we welcome your theories. So
yes,
speak up, tell us what you think.
If you see something, say something.
I'm sorry, I know that was really short, but this one stayed with me so much that I felt I needed to put it out there as well. I wanted to report on this or podcast on this, I guess. I think it's real.
I agree.
I think this is a real thing that's out there, and I think you've got some people that are taking advantage. They're taking advantage of women or situations, and this. I don't know. I just thought this was really creepy. Yeah. This whole thing was really creepy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, And it saddens me that that people can't just go and have it. And now I feel bad about my traditional pickup line when I was single, which I had to quit using because they started using it on friends.
What was that? Oh,
How you
doing?
How you doing? Yeah, it works, or it did back in the early 90s.
Right. Yeah.
How
Probably
you
not
doing?
so much anymore. But yeah, it is sad in this day and age how careful you have to be because you do not know who you're talking to online.
No, you don't.
You don't know who the other person is on the end of that message in whatever dating app you are. So listen to those pieces of advice. Find out who this person is before you go out with them. Know what they look like. Don't go out on a blind date. You just can't go out on a blind date anymore.
Yeah.
It's sad how things have changed, but you just can't. So that takes us to the end of another recording week. So
Well, thank you, sir.
no, thank you for taking the ride with me. Appreciate it as always. As always, you can find us on nerderyandmurdery.com, where you can find the links to our social media as well as our email addresses. So you can tell us the things you like, tell us the things you don't like. I'd love to hear people's theories on what I talked about today, so do contact us and let us know. You can also find the link to our merchandise, where you can find your Nerdery and Murdery merchandise. You can show off your fandom. Maybe we'll have one about dogs barking at some point.
Yes. Well, I'm definitely going to do one about birds now because I can't not do that.
You can also find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a donor to our show, there are costs involved with it. So we do appreciate each and every one of our patrons.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. With our patrons, you do get exclusive episodes, and you get all of our episodes 2 weeks early. So there are some spiffs that go along with that. And as always, please do leave a rating or a rating and review for us on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere that you can leave ratings. It really helps us, and it helps other people find our content that might not have known about us before.
Takes less than a minute.
Takes less than a minute and completely free that you can help us out with. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.